Hey everybody, it's Angela Kotz with Ghost Hunting Beauties, and I'm here again with our favorite ghost hunting lady in the world over here. She's incredible with Spring Paranormal Investigations, Amy Lee. You know her, you love her, and I'm telling you, she's got so many stories to tell. We could do a podcast with just her. And all the things that she's been through. Welcome.
Thank you.
We are glad to have you here. As I say every time, we couldn't do this without you. You guide us, you help us investigate, you teach us, you educate us, and we are just so blessed to have you.
It's been a pleasure.
Like I said, I go on and on and on. But we've got some new questions today. I think last time, good questions. Last time you told us about what inspired you and what got you into wanting to do this as a profession. Mm-hmm. And we went all the way from level 1 to level 4. Level 4 there. So now we're going to get into some of the really good storytelling. Not that last time wasn't good, but I know now that we're level 4, we're expecting level 4 stories here. Level 4 stories here. So I know that you said you've done a lot of investigations. I mean, ballpark, how many investigations? Now that's the big question. How many in all these years do you think? A big ballpark number?
Oh my gosh. Hundreds upon hundreds.
And how many years experience?
Technically, I think I'm about 27, verging on 28 years doing this at this point. So I usually just round it off and say close to 30 because it's easier than trying to keep track.
Right.
And all of my team members are kind of the same way. Lynette's been doing it almost as long as I have. So, combined, we have almost 60 years just between the two of us. And that's not to mention all the others. So, but most of my team, I did train from the ground up. They had their own experiences before, and then I trained them when they joined the team.
Very cool. So I'm always wondering, that'll be whole nother podcast is how do you train ghost hunters,
That is a whole nother podcast.
Right. That is a whole nother podcast. So what I'm wondering today, and for everybody listening in, is I want to know one of the most scariest encounters that you've had. And it can be, scary for the client, scary for you guys. Because if it scares you, then I'm scared. Because you guys have seen it all, done it all. So share with us one of your most terrifying encounters.
Just one, huh?
We can go. We can go as many as you want.
People always say, when you do this, aren't you scared? And there are moments. Most of the time, like I said, it just becomes mundane.
Right.
But there are moments. For me, the scariest things that happen are never what we see or what we hear or feel or any of those things. The scariest part for me is always when I physically see my team members be hurt or compromised in some way, or if that should happen to a client in my presence.
Yeah.
When I look at it, like when I'm in a home and we're working, I am responsible for the safety of all of my team members.
Absolutely.
I am responsible for the safety of those clients.
Mm-hmm.
I don't take that lightly. So to me, the scariest moments are things that have happened to my team members in these situations versus what the spirit said or what the spirit did.
Right.
The worst of the worst was probably at this point, I'm sure it will get worse, but
oh man.
this past Easter, while everybody else was
recent.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Everybody else was at home, sleeping, getting ready to open their Easter baskets and their presents the next morning. We were in San Antonio doing a 6.5-hour exorcism on a young girl.
My goodness.
When I got the call, there was a family member that had already been killed.
Oh my God.
In the house.
You never think about danger like that. I mean, this is dangerous.
There were a few people in the house who had experienced momentary possessions and so forth. But this one individual was being affected more than the others. And when I talked to the mother of the family, her initial request to me was, I can't lose another child.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
And I was immediately I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen.
Right.
We took the case. We started investigating. We went down there, did our first weekend of investigations, and we knew we got a ton of evidence. We knew they had a ton of problems.
So you investigate and check it out first.
Right. We talked to the family at length and, found out physical and mental histories and all of these things that go into those kind of cases.
That's nice.
After we investigated and we had a pretty good sense of what they had, and it was a lot.
Oh, wow.
We decided to set up our subsequent investigation, and we were going to come back. Normally out of town cases, we do a Friday and a Saturday.
Okay.
And if we can get everything we need, that way we don't have to go back and we can save the expense of the hotels and the back and forth and cut down on the time dramatically and just go back to clear.
So step one is assessing everything.
Step one is really a phone interview between me and the clients before I ever even agree to take a case. So that there's a lot of little preliminary things leading up to that before we're ever on the case, really.
And y'all are ghost hunters with hearts, because as soon as you heard that, you knew you had to help, right?
I couldn't refuse. So, but we went and we were just there to do our second set of investigations on this particular weekend. But things had been unraveling quickly at the house. I was in regular constant contact with the family, getting calls of this person's not speaking and they're not acting like themselves. And what do we do? And, giving them certain prayers to go over and having them, get people out of the house and doing all these little actions in between.
Was there any specifics that you can think of what they were doing that was tipping off the family that there was really something off?
Like I said, it was momentary possession. So they would physically become someone else. There was, going and picking a knife out of the block and running into the closet, things like this.
Sounds like Chucky or something.
Very violent, very dramatic. They would find blood on the wall in the upstairs hallway just randomly.
What?
There were a lot of things like this going on, and everybody got so scared that by the time we came back for the second set, everybody was sleeping in one room. Nobody was sleeping alone, and so it progressed and it unraveled. When we came back for our second set, the Friday night we investigated and we knew things were much worse. And by then, they had played us a video that they had taken of when
video evidence
of when the individual in question was possessed.
Oh my God.
She had said several things in a language that was not English.
That was going to be my next question was it English?
So in between those times, I had that footage and I obtained it and I sent it to a Catholic priest friend of mine.
Was it in Latin?
That was my original thought, but it didn't sound exactly like Latin to me because I've heard this and I'm able to discern a little bit.
Wow.
So I sent it to him and I said, I really need to know what this is saying if you can help me. And he speaks fluent Latin.
Oh, that's incredible.
So he looked at it and he messaged me and he said, give me a day or two. I'm still working through something on this. And that's fine. I appreciate it. Take your time. He had another friend of his who also speaks some of the dead languages come in and listen to it as well.
Like Aramaic?
So when he called me back, he told me this is a form of ancient Aramaic.
Oh, how did I know?
Something that is spoken like near the beginning of the Exorcist movie, something, from that time period, from that region. He's like, we don't have anybody here at this facility or that I'm in contact with who speaks that language because it's so dead. So at this point, I don't know what it's saying, but we know that's what it is. Now, tell me, how does a young girl in the middle of Texas know ancient Aramaic?
Hey, at my school, we barely got through English.
And if you do know, please contact me because I am looking for somebody who can translate that.
No kidding. In the movies, it's almost like everyone can figure it out. It's like somebody somewhere speaks it. No, that's not real life.
No. So, we go back and we do the first night and we can tell how much things have progressed. And we went back to the hotel. We slept on it, woke up the next day, and I just had this sinking feeling. And we all talked about it and agreed on it. It was like, if we leave and we don't go back and we don't finish this tonight, somebody's going to get badly hurt or somebody else is going to get killed. And I just knew it, and I couldn't let that happen. So we called the family. We changed the schedule and the routine for that night and said everybody needed to be there. And then we kind of strategically went through things that night. There are tests that you can kind of perform on an individual to verify if they are possessed or not.
I've heard of this. Tell me test one. Test one.
So I'm usually very not candid about those things because there are reasons. But for instance, you can have a prayer group. Pray over that person in a separate location without them knowing. Oh. And they may exhibit or react in certain ways. Everybody knows about holy water. Yeah, yes. Holy water's the easy one. There are things you can do, and I hesitate to reveal this one because I've had to use it on several clients, and you have to be very, very careful and discreet about it. So I'd rather not share that one.
All right, we'll keep that one locked in the secret vault.
But we did several things. So we cleared the human spirits that were there, and there were several.
Oh, wait, so there was human spirits and demon spirits.
Normally, when you have a demonic, in my experience, there are usually several humans in the space. That's been our personal experience.
Wow. So this sounds like a portal or something open.
You know, people use that word, and I think it gets thrown around way too much. It's another one of those things that's not common.
Right.
But you know, demonics are looking for souls. I mean, this is biblical. This is basic.
Right.
And people don't like to think of it that way because it's a terrifying thought.
Yeah.
But if you have a house where you have a lot of spirits, you have a lot of souls just waiting there. So it doesn't mean there's a connection.
Portal. Right.
So, you know, I think it's an attractor for them.
Oh, that makes sense then.
You know, and so we went and like I said, things were just not going well. So I said, we need to do this. So we showed up, we cleared the humans. We systematically went through the house. I did a very, very strong blessing of the house. While we were doing that, my son was walking around with me, Raiden, saying the Latin exorcism. So as I'm blessing, he's exorcising the space. So we went through, and then we had a recording that was playing all through the house of another version of the Latin exorcism, so that it was literally echoing through the whole house.
I did not know that.
There are shorter versions and longer versions of it.
How many versions were there that night?
So we had, I think, 2 or 3 that we used that night. So as we did all of this, you know, we came down, we performed some tests just to verify what we were dealing with. We had a suspicion. Unfortunately, it proved correct.
Oh.
After we did the other tests, we were already pretty sure that one of the individuals there was in fact possessed, trying to hide it, but there are telltale signs, and we knew. So I had the family, I had them get holy water. And I told them that I wanted them to pour just a little bit in little bitty cups so that everyone in the family could drink it as part of the blessing. I knew that I was poking the bear so that we could expose what we were dealing with.
It's like detective work. So you guys do detective work on top of this. Oh my God.
A lot of counseling. There's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of components. So the individual in question literally was, another individual in the family was pouring it, and this individual was taking the cups and handing them down the line.
Oh.
But Jason and I both quickly noticed that she was abstaining from drinking it. Just hand it down the line.
Trying to be sneaky.
We did not take our eyes off of her. Ooh. She noticed it, and eventually she was the last one to go ahead and do it.
So she did it.
So we took a break. Briefly, we didn't go far, but we took a break because I wanted to let a little bit of time pass.
Yeah.
And after a short amount of time, she was in the kitchen. This particular individual had a medical problem that complicated the situation.
Ooh, that's not good.
Where high levels of stress could make this individual pass out. So, thankfully, Jason is a former EMT.
So you have medical staff.
And we have some other people who know a great deal about anatomy and things like that I consulted, and one of which, and he knows who he is. Thank you for being on the phone with us so many hours that night. Nice. So we had everything kind of in place, and I wasn't expecting it to go the way it did, but I was prepared at any moment that it could happen. Raiden and I had stepped off to the side. We were discussing something, and I hear a call from one of the family members that she is passed out.
Oh, no.
So we go back into the room, and they're like, this isn't normal, though. Like, the way she did it, the way this happened, this is not normal.
She's the one that drank the holy water.
Right.
Oof.
So at this point, she's sitting in a chair like I am, but she has her head down like this on her hands on the table. And so I have a few relics and a few other things I use. And I have a cross that was from a priest that was a cloistered monk for a while.
Oh, that's cool.
That is highly blessed, that I keep with me for times like that. And I grabbed this crucifix and I placed it right there on the back, the nape of her neck.
On her neck?
Now, at this point, she is unconscious, completely unconscious. It was not a voluntary movement that a person could make. But underneath where I placed the cross, you could literally see just the muscles in just that area spasm.
Oh.
As if rejecting it.
Wow.
And I knew instantaneously. And I looked at Jason, who was standing immediately to my left, and I said, down to the floor now. We no sooner got her halfway to the floor when she came up. And we spent the next 6.5 hours with 8 people holding her down while we worked through every bit of it.
Oh my gosh. So it was fighting back through her.
Oh yes. We were spit on, we were scratched, we were clawed, we were kicked, we were hit. One individual there was headbutted.
Ow.
It was hours of horror, and she would have moments of clarity in between it where, you know, we were monitoring her breathing. Wow. We were monitoring her heart rate.
That must have been terrifying for y'all and her.
It was an experience that I hope that I never have to repeat.
Where was her family? Were they at?
They were there. They were part of it.
Okay.
They were helping hold her down and helping keep her calm, and, you know, they were there. So wow. it was horrible for everybody there, you know, but after the 6.5 hours.
Wow. Did it
she was
speak
free of
to
it.
you? Did that demon speak to you?
Oh, yeah.
I bet it was mad.
Yeah, I can't repeat the things that were said.
Right.
I won't. But when you experience that, it's not like the movies. And when you experience that and you look into that person's eyes, some people there didn't, and that's good. I had to because of my position. But that's a look that you never forget.
Right.
It's
like they're
not
looking through you?
Yeah, it's not a look that you will find in another living person. It is something that never leaves you. That vision will never leave me as long as I live.
Wow.
But to be able to stare it down and stay calm and stay focused and stay on that individual, and, you know, obviously staying extremely high in faith, because you can't even do that if your faith isn't absolute.
So one of my questions is, how did it drink the holy water? If it has an aversion, how was it able to do that?
You could tell visibly when she did it, even though she was trying to hide it, that it was painful.
Okay.
That she was very much, it was like as if you were, you know, drinking something that was horrible and you were almost gagging it down. Ooh. You could see that was a mask for the pain and what was going on.
Wow.
You know, and we knew, like I said, we kind of knew before we got there. It was lightly discussed how we would handle things if things progressed to that level, because we
Right.
had a strong suspicion that was going to happen.
So you're prepared.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I hear about the demon possession is the superhuman strength. Like no matter what their size.
Unbelievably strong. I mean, I have some big guys on my team and some very tough people on my team, and you know, holding this person down. I mean, this person couldn't have been more than 110 pounds to take 8 of us and you know, big guys, and we were all exhausted. It couldn't have been more exhausted when it was over.
6 hours. That's a lot. Think about, you know, people who do the ultimate fighting, you know, and how long they can go with 5 rounds. And you guys are going 6 hours with a demon that's not even from this world challenging you. It's like, man, that's incredible. So it still haunts you to this day.
I can't say that it haunts me because I'm grateful for the end result.
Right.
That family is complete. They're happy. They're healthy. And
she's doing well.
She's doing well. They've been able to move on, and there's no greater gift in the world than that. I would do it all over again if I had to right now. But at the same time, like I said, I hope in that sense that I never have to again.
Right. Exactly. So one of my follow-up questions would be, because this is all new to me, so especially the demon part, you know, it's this part that terrifies me as well. I hope I never come across anything like that, and I'm glad we have you guys there, because imagine, you know, if you weren't there and we come across something that's demonic. So the question I have is, why the aversion to the symbols, like with the cross and the holy water? Why do they have an aversion to that? Do you know?
So, you know, it's interesting because like this exorcism started at a specific time with a lot of 6s on the clock, and it ended at 3 a.m.
What? No.
There is, you know, they love the 3 factor.
Wow.
The 3 factor will, in my experience, inevitably always show up in this case, is whether it's hidden or whether it's very prominent, it's always there. And it's a mocking of the Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. It's to mock the Trinity.
Wow.
And that's the hatred. That's the pure hatred for, you know, Jesus dying for our sins and for humanity in itself.
Wow. That's incredible. So she's doing well now. That you guys, how often do you follow up with her?
You know, every so often we're very careful about that, because we don't want to keep reminding people.
Right.
We want people to get on with their lives. And it's very hard, because in a lot of these cases, you get so attached to these people that we help. And some of them, you know, it's like, oh, we'd love to just talk to these people all the time or see them. But a lot of people it's such a horrible time in their life. Yeah. And they get through it, and they don't want to remember that. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times when we leave at the end, you know, the last moment is a hug, and it's, you know, I hope, you know, that everything is well for you. Mm-hmm. I'd love to hear from you again, but I hope I never do.
Right. You hope I never have to call you again.
You know, and we've had very, very few that we have to go back and repeat because something else has happened. And usually it's that something else has moved into the space. We haven't had any, to our knowledge, that we have cleared that have come back or anything like that. Once they're crossed over, they're crossed over.
Right. Did she ever figure out what led to it? Are demon possessions just random?
In this particular case, there were factors, but out of consideration for the family and so forth, that I won't go into that.
Right. Are there any tips that you can give after having that terrifying experience for people to be able to avoid something like that? If there's something that we can consciously do to make sure that we're not susceptible to it or not prone to that type of thing. Because you can't change trauma. You said trauma makes you susceptible.
Unfortunately, yeah. But, handling it well, though. How you handle it. You know, getting proper therapy if needed. Getting proper counseling.
Yes.
That's huge. What we found, and this is something that our Taoist priest friend who helped that night told me. And it's very, very true. Positive attracts positive. Negative attracts negative. So the more tumultuous your life is, the more issues that are going on, and the more caught up in that negativity you are, the more likely you are to attract negative things to you. One of the things I always tell any of my clients dealing with malevolence or demonics is try to keep your home and your situation as peaceful and as happy as possible. If you're experiencing something like that, don't watch a horror movie and then go to sleep. Watch something happy. Watch something that makes you laugh. Put yourself in a good state of mind before you're relaxing. Little things like that can make a great difference.
I watch The Big Bang Theory before I go to sleep after the ghost hunting shows. Or after we do research in different places we're going to go, that sometimes I feel like that if I'm in that frame of mind, it might be inviting. So definitely trying to go, okay, Big Bang Theory or Scrubs. I think I've seen every season of that probably like 6 times. So I think 6 times I have gone back and watched every episode.
Mine's The Golden Girls. That's my wind down after this.
Yes. I love it. Well, thank you for sharing that story, because that's a very personal and intimate story. And we appreciate that you're very respectful to the family of their privacy and the intimate details. But it's really good to know and very interesting for others to be aware of these things that are happening. Because otherwise, we don't know.
Right.
Like this is all a new world for us. And you are there guiding us. You're shining the light on all of the things that we are learning here. Paranormal and otherwise. Well, thank you for coming on to our show, Amy. We appreciate you as always with SPI, the Spring Paranormal Investigators.
Good night.
Good night.